some breaking news. A leading member of the Supreme Court is retiring. Let's get straight to CNN's Jessica Schneider. Jess, huge news.
Huge news, John. This has actually just been confirmed by our Wolf Blitzer that at 83 years old, after 27 years on the Supreme Court, Justice Stephen Breyer, the leading liberal on the court, he will retire. We're still not exactly sure of the timeline, but presumably not until the end of this term, which ends usually at the end of June. This retirement announcement comes after what has been a persistent drumbeat of calls from progressives to retire from the court, dating back now just about a year. It was about a year ago when the progressive group Demand Justice actually hired a mobile billboard that drove around Capitol Hill in front of the Supreme Court, urging Breyer to retire. Now we know he will retire, presumably at the end of this term. You know, Justice Stephen Breyer, he spoke with our Joan Biskupic last year, and he talked about what would prompt him to retire. He said it would ultimately be about two things: his health and the court. We don't know about any issues with his health, so presumably this is all about the court, preserving the status of the court, despite the politics that are at play here. Justice Stephen Breyer has repeatedly talked in speeches about preserving the integrity of the court, keeping politics out of the court, not letting politics stain the public reputation of the court. But now, despite or possibly because of those progressive calls for him to step down, the justice will retire. And of course, Justice Stephen Breyer knows all about the political implications of his position, especially after the sudden death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg that gave that third nominee to Donald Trump, now making it a solidly 6-3 conservative court. Justice Breyer served as chief counsel in the 70s to the Senate Judiciary Committee. He helped investigate Watergate, so he knows full well the politics at play here and how the politics have been even more in the forefront when it comes to this court over the past several years. Justice Stephen Breyer, he has, though, relished his position as the leading liberal on the court. Right now, he's the third most senior justice after the Chief Justice, after conservative Clarence Thomas. Justice Breyer has talked to our Joan Biskupic about how he relished his role as this leading liberal, getting to speak for the liberals first in their conferences. You know, he's written some important decisions over the past year as well, talking about free speech in schools. So he has been a really vocal member of the court. John, he just put out a book in September talking about how politics should not permeate the high court. That has been his consistent message. But perhaps today, John, potentially politics playing a role in Justice Breyer's decision to step down after almost 3 decades, because progressives want to have that chance before the November midterm elections to get a Biden nominee to the court. So big news today. Justice Stephen Breyer, we've learned, will in fact retire.
Right.
John?
And you have to. Look, the justices all say they try to shield the court from politics. They shield themselves from politics. As you mentioned, Justice Breyer served as an aide to the liberal Senator Ted Kennedy for a long time. He understands politics quite well. He also understands the pressure on him. It's the raw politics here are if the Republicans take control of the Senate and if Breyer waited much longer and we were after the November elections and Republicans were going to take power in January, Mitch McConnell had made quite clear, we won't take up a Biden pick. There'll still be a fight over any Biden pick, but at least now the president gets to make his pick while he has a 50-50 Democratic Senate with the vice president, Kamala Harris, making the key deciding votes.
Exactly. And still plenty of time left in the court's term. Usually they end at the end of June. So this would allow time for the president to make his pick. We know that during the campaign, President Joe Biden pledged to nominate a black woman. So we've got our eyes on several. There's Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. She's currently at the D.C. Circuit. Leandra Kruger is out in California. So a few names there, but of course more will likely come out as we enter into this next phase of who exactly will be President Biden's nominee and enter into the politics that will no doubt play into this decision. John?
Let's get straight. Jessica, stand by and continue reporting. I want to get to our chief White House correspondent, Kaitlan Collins. Kaitlan, again, a decision that inside the White House they wanted. They wanted very much for the President of the United States to get to make a choice here, and they wanted very much that if Justice Breyer was going to retire, that he do it as far away from the November elections as possible so that Biden can make the case, I'm president, we have the majority, the American people don't vote till November, we're going to do this now.
It's one of the most delicate situations that any White House has to deal with. And of course, the timing is everything for a White House. We've seen how it has played out before with the last 3 justices that were confirmed to the court. And John, we are getting the first reaction from the White House now from Press Secretary Jen Psaki, who has just tweeted, "It has always been the decision of any Supreme Court justice if and when they decide to retire and how they want to announce it. That remains the case today." And she says, "We have no additional details or information to share from the White House." Though, of course, typically these announcements are something that are done in conjunction with the White House. They typically communicate beforehand that this is something that a justice wants to do. We're still waiting on the details of how Justice Breyer has decided to do this. But of course, he is someone who does have close ties to this White House. Some of his former clerks are top aides here at the White House inside the West Wing in the Biden administration. And so, of course, this is a significant moment for this White House and for this president to be able to make a decision potentially of someone that he wants to put on the court. And it remains to be seen how Justice Breyer is going to move forward with this announcement, how it will be done in conjunction with the White House. They're not offering a lot of details right now and declining to comment any further on that. But it is certainly a significant moment. And you're right, John. It is one that the White House wanted to see. It's one that every White House wants to see, to be able to have that kind of a lasting impact. And it was certainly one that Biden's predecessor had with those 3 justices that he put on the court. And so, of course, this is going to raise so many questions, as Jessica was just noting, about who is going to be on this list. And one thing that I should highlight is, remember when the White House announced that they were going to be releasing those visitor logs? Those were the logs that, of course, Trump and the Trump administration had said they were not going to make public because they believed it was a matter of national security not to know who was coming in and out of the White House. I remember when the Biden administration announced they were going to be releasing the visitor logs, it did have a little asterisk at the bottom of this announcement saying that, for example, potential Supreme Court justice nominees would not be considered public and being made public in those visitor logs if that's someone who came and met with President Biden. Of course, that is where the focus is going to go here. Who does President Biden want to pick? How do they get this done? What's the reaction on Capitol Hill? And of course, the president himself's reaction to this.
And so, Kaitlan, stand by. I want to come back to you in a minute to talk about the process. We know, as you noted, whether viewers like or dislike President Trump's picks, they had a process in place and they were ready to move at a moment's notice. I want to come back to that in a minute, but I want to get some important perspective now from our veteran court watcher, Joan Biskupic. Joan, you have interviewed Justice Breyer several times. I've loved your interview with him a few months back where he bristled at the political pressure on him to resign. But clearly, a man who was on the court for some time but came out of Democratic politics, understood that pressure, understood the calendar, understood the midterm election clock, and now this momentous decision.
Yes, that's right, John. And I think he was under a lot of pressure last year to go. He resisted it, plainly thinking that he had this year. But by virtue of picking the last week in January as he has, he's trying to leave nothing now to chance. This is the earliest we've had an announcement in a calendar year since 1993, when Justice Byron White announced in March. So this is a very early time to alert the president. I'm sure part of it was the pressure that he has been feeling. But the other element, I'm sure, John, is our highly partisan times, that he has seen the confirmation process spiral out of control and does not want to leave anything to chance. He is likely to condition his retirement on the appointment of a successor, which hasn't been done since 2005 when Justice Sandra Day O'Connor stepped down. So that's a big difference, and the difference of the timing of January. And, look, he has been here since 1994, a Democratic appointee, a man who had served on the Senate Judiciary Committee. He understands the politics of the moment. I'm sure that he's, tried to do this in a careful way. I presume right now he's trying to personally tell his colleagues on the court, now that it's out here in the open. They last met as a group last Friday. They're not going to meet again as a group until later in February. So this, I'm sure, is going to be both predictable for some of his colleagues, but also sort of surprising that he chose this early point of January. But again, it shows us, John, the times that we're in right now when the Senate hangs by a single vote for the Democrats. Joe Biden should be able to move an appointee this summer and before the court begins his next term in October. But in these times, Justice Breyer probably just did not want to do anything more risky than he had already done in waiting 1 year.
All right, Joan, stand by as well. We're going to continue our important breaking news coverage. I want to bring in my colleague, Wolf Blitzer, who broke this news for us here at CNN. Wolf, you are our senior White House correspondent. Back when Bill Clinton put Stephen Breyer on the court, his tenure soon to come to an end in this momentous decision at the beginning of year 2 of the Biden presidency.
It was 1994. You and I remember it well. John, I was covering the White House during the Bill Clinton administration, and I think we were first to report the news that Stephen Breyer would be nominated to be a United States Supreme Court justice. I have now learned, I have confirmed that he will make the announcement together, I'm told, with the President of the United States, a formal announcement. That could come as early as tomorrow over at the White House, but he won't actually leave the Supreme Court until a new nominee is officially confirmed and becomes a Supreme Court justice. So he will remain for weeks, if not a few months, whatever it takes to get a new nominee confirmed.